at you. Today on ESPN.com, our friend here, Bill Barnwell, wrote an article identifying the biggest remaining holes on the top contending teams. And just so not to be too negative, Bill provided a solution for each one of them. So, Bill, take us through some of the notable situations, starting with the Detroit Lions.
Yes, Detroit Lions need a pass rusher, Dan. They have Aiden Hutchinson, but last year when they rushed 4 or less, they were 24th in the NFL in quick pressure rate, and they've lost Al-Qadim Muhammad to the Bucs in free agency. So you're thinking about a Joey Bosa potentially here, maybe a Jadeveon Clowney who had 8.5 sacks for the Cowboys a year ago. Get that veteran pass rusher to add to the mix. Take some of the pressure off of Aiden Hutchinson up front for Detroit. The Philadelphia Eagles are in need of a safety after Reed Blankenship left in free agency. Vic Fangio defenses, they always need to have good safety to disguise their coverages, change pre and post snap, and they have Andrew Mukuba, a second-round pick from a year ago, who was pretty good before he got hurt. I think that's where the Eagles are going to go again to get a partner for him, have a lot of money to spend elsewhere. You would figure draft safety probably day 2 of the draft for them in Philadelphia, and then go to Washington in the same division. They need another wide receiver for Jaden Daniels. Talk about the Navy being involved in some other markets, but the obvious play here to me is Brandon Aiyuk. Really good in 2023, tears his ACL in 24, appeared to be a dead set on annoying the Niners in 25. That's going to end this offseason. They might trade him, try to find a trading spot, but Aiyuk is a really useful player. Adam Peters was there in San Francisco when they drafted him. Makes sense for that reunion there between those two parties. Try to get Aiyuk's value back up before free agency in 2027.
Yeah, a lot of talk about Aiyuk wanting to reunite with Jaden Daniels, who he played with in college, so maybe that does happen. Mina, Commanders picking 7th in the draft next month. They have a lot of needs on their roster. Where do you think they should go with that pick?
Yeah, they do have needs, and I think what's tricky is they have needs at high-value positions. Wide receiver, Bill's absolutely right. But edge also, and corner, I mean, those are some pretty expensive positions. I do think where they're picking in the draft, though, they'll have some really interesting options. And what I'll say is this. If one of the 3 top pass rushers are available to them, speaking about David Bailey, Arvell Reese, and Reuben Bain Jr., I would just run up and make the pick, put him opposite Odafe Owe, who he signed this offseason. That should not be prohibitive from them grabbing one of those pass rushers, because I do think there is a fall off at that position after the top 3. But if they're not available, then things get a little bit hairy. Maybe you go wide receiver or corner, but that would be my preference, to take a pass rusher at 7.
All right, Bill, we have one more contender hole to fill. What did you identify as the big hole to fill for the Super Bowl champion Seahawks?
It's running back, because the Super Bowl MVP is now in Kansas City. Kenneth Walker, of course, leaves this offseason. Zach Charbonnet coming off of a torn ACL. They need a veteran early on who can be the early down back and then maybe cede some work to Charbonnet when he returns. Brian Robinson just seems like such a logical fit here for me. He's shouldered a workload before in Washington. Didn't fumble last year, which I think really was a negative for him earlier in his career. 54% success rate as a runner in San Francisco. Not going to be a great receiver, but neither was Kenneth Walker. Can he be that early down between the tackles back to take some of the load off of Sam Darnold? That's something that could be a big plus for Seattle as they try to build that run game without Kenneth Walker.
Kids, try to find a passion that is 1/10 as fulfilling as John Schneider finds drafting a running back in the 2nd round. It's happening again this year. I look at Jadarian Price out of Notre Dame. I look at Mike Washington out of Arkansas as 2 guys who are going to be 2nd-round values. We know it's coming, but I'm looking at the Seahawks roster. I'm a little concerned about some of the snap counts going away. Kobe Bryant, the leading snap guy on the defense, is gone. Reek Woolen, who was up and down, still was 3rd in snaps. So they're going to have to promote from within, nail this draft a little bit. They obviously did it last year. They've got some really, really good young players, Gray Zabel, Nick Emanwari, guys who changed the entire franchise. They have to do it again, because in that division, there's a case to be made. They can be the 3rd best team in the conference and be the 3rd best team in the division because of how stacked it is.
The thing about John Schneider and his documented affinity for running backs there, Kevin, you're absolutely right, is because he's drafted so well the last few years, the roster is in position for him to take one. So he can have a running back. You know, it's a little treat. You can take a running back in the 2nd round. No, it is something that has given me a lot of angst in the past, but I do, while Kevin, you make good points about safety, and I think guard is in need too. There's some outgoing talent. I do think they are well positioned to grab one in the mid rounds of this draft, and we'll see. We'll see if he continues the trend. We'll
see. Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, both second-round picks. Charbonnet will be coming off an injury. They do need to beef up that room. Coming up on NFL, time now to read and react. Starting in Carolina, one of the Panthers' big free agent signings, linebacker Devin Lloyd, met with the media there in Charlotte earlier today.
You know, there's a lot to be attracted to when it comes to the team, and ultimately that's why I ended up signing here. I think there's a lot of great pieces on defense, for one, and obviously being, you know, a defender, you know, that was one thing that I was looking for. I mean, you got a number of players, Derek Brown, J.C. Horn, obviously two most notable, but, you know, Trayvon. I mean, there's guys all over the defense that make plays, and, you know, I just want to come in and be a part of that playmaking unit and help elevate it the most I can.
Mina, what do you think so far of the Panthers offseason?
I share a lot of Devin Lloyd's sentiments. I do think they have a lot of nice pieces. And his mention of playmaking is really what got me thinking, because that's a big part of why he was able to get this contract. He was an interception machine, right? The fact that Carolina upgraded its pass rush, adding Jalen Phillips now next to Derek Brown, makes me like the Devin Lloyd signing more, because it makes it more likely he's going to get his hands on the football if they're able to pressure the quarterback. So in total, I think they now have stars at all three levels, and I think the picture is coming together really nicely in Carolina.
Panthers building, of course, off of a division title there in the NFC South. Off to Happy Valley now, where Penn State held its pro day on Wednesday. Quarterback Drew Aller explained what he was hoping to showcase to the NFL scouts.
My game plan was just to come out here and just show teams what I can do from a film standpoint. Really, it was just to kind of showcase a lot of different things that I either put on tape or at the next level that you see a lot on Sundays. So a lot of my stuff wanted to be like play action stuff from under center and kind of just go through different layering the ball a little bit and driving the ball at the same time. So I feel really good about everything.
Kevin, if you were an NFL team, would you be taking a look at Drew Aller in the draft?
Ready for this take?
Yes.
Maybe.
Ooh,
yeah,
red
Scorcher, maybe. Big arm, NFL frame. He did a lot of good things at Penn State, but he was banged up. He made a lot of weird, risky decisions, and he didn't make a lot of NFL throws, okay? He didn't pull the trigger when he needed to on guys who I saw a scouting report with saying that when he would be NFL open, right? He doesn't throw guys open in the way that the guys want to see. So Mel Kiper has him fourth behind, obviously, Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson, Carson Beck. That's about right. He's a mid-round guy. Someone's going to fall in love with him because of the arm strength, because of the frame. I think he can be okay, and I think in a good system he can develop and play in a few years. He is not a day one guy, and he's not a sleeper. You know, I don't think he's going to have a meaningful NFL starting career.
So hard, maybe.
Hard, maybe.
Absolutely.
You heard it here first.
To Minnesota, where recently retired wide receiver Adam Thielen met with the media today. Talk about closing out his career with the Vikings.
All the players I played with, the relationships, the time that we spent together, and the relationships that we built, there's nothing better. And it's the thing I'm going to miss the most, is just being in that locker room, building relationship with guys that you just never knew that you would come across, and build these strong relationships. And the impact that these guys have made on me has really changed my life, to be honest. So very thankful for all the players.
Bill, kind of an extraordinary career for Thielen, given where he came from. What do you make of that career when you look back on it?
Yeah, I mean, fourth in NFL history in receiving yards amongst undrafted free agents. An unheralded guy, got better year after year, you know, really forced his way into the lineup and then proved he belonged. And also, obviously, most of his career taking place in Minnesota with the Vikings. Always cool to see a local boy done well. Thielen grew up in Minnesota, played college football, I believe, at Minnesota State, was in that vicinity for a long time. You don't always see that. Nice, and you can see with like LA, like you always hear about it for LA, a couple other places where a lot of players are from. Not a ton of players from the Minnesota area, so exciting to see Thielen play well in Minnesota and do so for the Vikings for so long.
Congratulations to Adam Thielen on his NFL career. One more stop. It's Las Vegas, where Maxx Crosby still lives. Crosby spoke on his podcast this week for the first time since the Baltimore Ravens backed out of the trade that would have sent him to Baltimore.
I didn't get to see the GM at all. I thought I was going to see him when I first got there. I didn't see him for 5 hours. I went back up, and I dap him up, and I could just tell, like, the energy was a little bit off. And the GM was standing in, like, the hall, like, in the room next to me to the right. And that was the first time I seen him. And, you know, I'm just in my head, like, this is a whirlwind. Like, I'm so excited, like, fired up, you know what I mean? Like, this is a new opportunity, whatever. And you could just tell the energy was off. Like, I dapped him up. He had, like, a blank face. The Ravens guys called me and it's like, yo, we're trying to figure this out. You know, we're gonna get this done. Don't worry. Like 5 minutes later, CJ calls me. It's like, they're backing out. I'm like, holy shit. So I'm like frozen. I'm like, what the f-? I'm livid, confused, the whole 9 all in one. Happens for a reason. I know exactly who I am. I'm healthy. I'm crushing my rehab. I'm doing what I'm doing. I wasn't supposed to be in Baltimore. And that's it. You know what I mean? I'm meant to be a Raider. It's through my damn core. And that's it. You know what I mean? I'll leave it simple as that.
A low energy dap is always a bad sign. Right? What do you make?
Vibes are off.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you make of what Max had to say there?
It's not being weird and having bad tableside manners, which it sounds like the Ravens did. That's not a crime, and it's not indicative of anything. So I still tend to believe. Mina and I have talked about this all week. I tend to believe the Ravens' series of events. I do believe that he did have some worrying medicals coming off the meniscus. So I don't think anybody on the Ravens probably looks great here as far as letting him drive to D.C., letting him be on the tarmac without representation from the team. It's a little weird, but that in itself does not lend itself for me to any conspiracy theories.
I'm going to need someone to clip Kevin saying being weird is not a crime.
It's true.
Going to have that one.
Legalize it. Legalize being weird.
All right. So I think for Las Vegas, and let's just spin this forward now, you have the opportunity here to get a motivated Maxx Crosby. He claims a healthy Maxx Crosby, and they have the money to afford him. That's the crazy thing about all of this is like the Raiders have so much dang cap space, and they still have so much cap space, they can afford it. I do think it helps Mendoza to have a functional pass rush on the other side of the ball. To me, the worst or the bigger issue here for Vegas is they really could have used that 14th overall pick, because I do still think they need to add to the offense, to the receiving group, to the offensive line. And if I were them, I would endeavor to find a way to do so early in the draft, even though they don't have another first-round pick other than one they're spending on Mendoza. But this is something that they can afford, and as Max says, it makes sense for him to go back to Las Vegas.
It does, but I just look at the situation that they were in a couple weeks ago. It made sense for Maxx Crosby to go to a contender for 2 first-round picks. Now, the Raiders are not going to get 2 first-round picks and they put Maxx Crosby back on the market right now. There are just a lot of teams who were in that discussion, the Cowboys, the Jags, different teams that aren't going to be in those conversations now because they spent money elsewhere, or in the case of teams like the Commanders, actually went out and signed a free agent for significant money at that position. But I do wonder if it makes sense to revisit this at the trade deadline. Maxx Crosby is going to be a little cheaper in terms of the amount of money a team would have to put out to acquire him. The Raiders can get picks in 2027 and 2028 for Maxx Crosby. And I know there's not going to be that 2 first-round picks offer now, but we know teams get desperate at the trade deadline. Trades that wouldn't have made sense in May or June, they make a lot more sense for teams who have Super Bowl aspirations in October. And so if Maxx Crosby is healthy and he looks it the first 6 weeks of the year, I wonder if the Raiders are going to get that maybe 1 and a 2, or a 1, a 2, and a 3, or maybe even 2 first-round picks for Maxx Crosby after all.
We'll see. I mean, part of the reason the deal was done in the first place was they felt like Max wanted out. Now he's talking like he doesn't want out anymore, so we'll see as it goes along. What?
I was just going to say, Trey Hendrickson's a worse player. He's worse against the run. Maxx Crosby is one of the best locker room guys in football. The Ravens are worse off after this, so that's why I don't believe. And Trey Hendrickson got a market rate deal. So
anything nefarious was afoot.
I don't think so. Not here. I'm a conspiracy guy, but not here.
Not this one. Hey, we have a surprise. All right, we'll have a surprise for you later when we come back from the break. I thought we were going to do it, but it'll be fun when it happens. Still to come on NFL Live. Everybody loves the 58th birthday of Chiefs head coach Andy Reid, which, of course, gives us an excuse to talk about a time when Andy was much younger and caught on video.
My favorite moment was when I was in the punt passing kit.
I've got video evidence of that. that they've worn out.
13-year-old Andrew Reid. He's a giant.
How old are you here?
12 or 13.
That's Monday Night Football right there.
Nothing stood out more literally than Andy in the punt, pass, and kick competition.
I feel like he's shrunk since that videos even came out. I mean, it looked like he was like 6'7" in that video.
Did someone check IDs here? He had a beard.
I mean, it just never gets old.
How many wins do you think Andy Reid, the coach, could get Andy Reid, the QB? Because I think he could get you a couple touchdowns
He
here.
could probably design something around.
Absolutely. Get somebody
set.
wide open.
Yeah.
He's a quarterback whisperer. He could whisper to himself. I think get you a couple wins over the course of the season.
It just never gets old. Unbelievable video. Chiefs offseason started with a bang, not in a great way. They lost two of their starting cornerbacks to the Rams, trading Trent McDuffie there, and then Jalen Watson signed as a free agent. Isaiah Pacheco let go, but they bring in the Super Bowl MVP to replace him, running back Kenneth Walker. Then on Monday, they traded for Justin Fields to be a backup quarterback, maybe play a little while Patrick Mahomes heals from his season-ending injury. Mina, what is your biggest concern at this point when you look ahead to this Chiefs season?
I've got a few, and I say that as someone who liked the additions they made. Walker, they need an explosive back. Tonga, excellent nose tackle you saw in New England. Fields, a capable backup. But realistically, the Chiefs need to get better at wide receiver, multiple cornerback spots, and edge. Some of the three most expensive positions, right? And fortunately for them, where they're picking in the draft 9, I do think they'll have a shot to get an impact player there, but man, Brett Veach, the Chiefs GM, I think is under a lot of pressure to nail this draft, in part because they haven't found superstars at those positions in previous drafts, and then they traded away one in Trent McDuffie, which I understand, but big holes on this roster, and yeah, he's got to smash it.
Yeah, Brett Veach is 30th in cash spending at cornerback since he took over as GM. And the biggest signing he made is Christian Fulton, who was a mess last year in his first season with the Chiefs. So it kind of feels like that's a position they're going to hit in the draft. Certainly, if not in the first round, then on day 2 and day 3.
All right. Well, the Chiefs didn't finish last year, but they came fairly close. They finished 3rd in their division. We're going to talk about teams that did finish last. With March Madness starting today, we thought it was worth looking back at some of the biggest Cinderella stories in the NFL. History will tell you that what the Patriots did last year just doesn't happen. They became the 3rd team in NFL history to win 10 more games than they did the previous season. And of those 3, they were the only team to win even one playoff game, let alone multiple playoff games. So we talk a lot about teams that go worst to first or almost worst to first. Who's the Cinderella team you have your eye on from this distance away from the 2026 season?
I already made the comparison earlier in the show.
They've upgraded at linebacker as well. 1-6 in one-score games. They're going to win some more of the close ones this season.
I don't know. Jackson Dart's probably sitting there going, I could make the Hall of Fame. Like, I don't know
what about Cam? We met Cam Ward, right, Bill?
Me off?
Cam Ward's the Hall of Famer, the gold jacket.
Huh, Bill?
I don't know. We
there
demoted,
were 2 Hall of Famers in that class. Come on.
We demoted J.J. McCarthy right off the depth chart. We're telling you draft. Welcome into NFL Live. I'm Dan Graziano in for Laura. We got Kevin Clark here in studio. Mina Kimes joining the show. Bill Barnwell's going to be along in a little bit. We're going to start with the news this morning. This is more Vikings quarterback news. We seem to have this every day. This morning they signed Carson Wentz to a 1-year deal, adding depth to an already crowded quarterback room that includes Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy. All 3 of these guys would like to forget 2025. None of them went the distance. Kyler started only 5 games due to injuries. And these guys, 4 of them, Brosmer too. We didn't mention Maxx Crosby. Combined for 22 starts, 11-11 with 23 passing touchdowns and 24 interceptions. So, Mina, we look at the Vikings quarterback situation as a whole right now. What do you make of that, and what should the plan be?
Yeah, I still think this is Kyler Murray's job to lose. When you compare his play, both the film and the stats, to what we've seen from J.J. McCarthy, Carson Wentz last season, it's really not close. And I do think it bears repeating that with even average quarterback play, which I do think they can get from Murray, this is a playoff team. We talk a lot about the defense being a top 10 or even better unit, but something that I think bears also mentioning is that the run game was above average last year, despite the fact that they faced the 25th highest number of light boxes in football. No team with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison should be facing that low of a rate of light boxes on the ground. So you put Murray back there, and I think what he opens up both as a passer and a dual threat quarterback should help the run game too, and also give it easier looks. So I just think he lifts the floor of this entire unit and then the entire football team in the process.
It's not a quarterback competition. And if it is, congratulations, I'm calling it on March 19th at 4:02 p.m. Kyler Murray has won the quarterback competition because he's a better fit.
Trying to build drama and suspense here in the offseason. He's
a better player. He wouldn't have gone, frankly. He should have had 31 offers because it's Kyler Murray who's played a lot of ball at a high level for $1.3 million because of the offsets in his contract. So he's got a lot of options. He's not going to go anywhere. He doesn't think he's going to play. So that's the first part of it that's just practical. But then you look at it, he comes into Minnesota with a much better skill set than Sam Darnold had when he came to Minnesota 2 years ago, resurrected his career and became a Super Bowl winner and made a whole boatload of money in the process because of it. You look at the things that overlap. Now, there's differences. Kyler Murray did not play a lot under center in Arizona. Kevin O'Connell likes doing that. A couple of schematic things. There's not a mismatch. There's a little bit of a mismatch. But the things they can do well, corner routes, throwing outside the numbers, throwing to guys who get separation, which happens in Minnesota. There's more of a scheme fit than people think between Kyler Murray and Kevin O'Connell. This receiving core, this skill group is going to accentuate everything Kyler Murray does, open up running lanes. Kevin O'Connell's never had a scrambler like this, ever. Sometimes there's scheme fits, sometimes there's scheme expansions. This is a scheme expansion with Kyler Murray in that Vikings offense.
So, I mean, kind of a bold call with a guy that started 5 games and his old team's paying him $36 million to go away. I don't know that it's a sure thing. Bill, do you agree with Kevin? And if you do, what do you think they should do? Bill Barnwell joining us, by the way. I should mention, welcome him in. What do you think they should do with J.J. McCarthy if, in fact, it's Kyler's job?
I do agree with Kevin, but I don't agree that the quarterback competition is over. It's just a different quarterback competition. This is not for the starting job. J.J. McCarthy, with this signing of Carson Wentz, is competing for the backup job, the number 2 job in Minnesota. And that is the point where we start thinking about a sunk cost, because there have been quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, who have gone from the 1 to the 2 and then back to the 1. Bryce Young famously comes to mind recently, but I can't think of a young quarterback who fell all the way from the starting job to the number 3 job in the organization and then made it back with that same team. J.J. McCarthy owed about $4 million over the next 2 years. This is a sunk cost situation in Minnesota. I know they drafted him high. They traded draft capital to get him. But that's in the past at this point. The GM who drafted J.J. McCarthy is no longer with the organization. At this point, this is about what can you do to build the best roster around a really good defense and a really good set of playmakers. And I don't know that J.J. McCarthy, who was 38th in QBR last year, is even the right option to be the number 2 guy, given his injury history over the past couple of seasons.
How's that for drama? A backup quarterback competition, Dan?
I mean, we're like 5 minutes into the show. We've already demoted J.J. McCarthy twice. Poor guy has lost his starting job, and then he went ahead and lost the backup job just in the first few minutes of the show.
I do want to point out, people talking about Kevin O'Connell not running a lot of shotgun. They did go out and hire former Dolphins offensive coordinator Frank Smith, who ran a lot of shotgun in Miami. Could be a scheme fit there.
All right, well, we'll see what happens there in Minnesota. We showed you that graphic. Obviously, no sure things in that quarterback room. We have had a trade every single day this week so far. Monday, it was Justin Fields being sent from the Jets to the Chiefs. On Tuesday, Jalen Waddle to the Broncos from Miami for the 30th overall pick in the draft. And then on Wednesday, the Eagles acquired Panthers backup Andy Dalton. Focusing on that middle one, Jalen Waddle spoke for the first time yesterday since the trade. Here's what he had to say.
Man, it feels special, electric. I just feel like family, feel like home.
What are your initial impressions of joining that offense?
I'm excited. It's a lot to build on. They're all playmakers, so it's always exciting to play with a lot of different talented players. So I'm excited just to go out there and compete with them guys.
I know it's fresh here, but how excited are you to get going, get on the field?
I'm excited, man. I'm excited to get this thing going.
All right, Mina, we're looking at this trade, obviously big for the Broncos, but what do you see being the most significant impact he makes joining Denver?
Yeah, I love this fit, particularly with the players already on the roster. And I think it's really valuable because he adds an element to this Broncos offense that really hasn't existed. One thing that I think is really important, maybe one of my favorite attributes of his, yards after the catch. So the Broncos had a decent amount of yards after the catch last season, but if you take out short throws and screens, they were actually 25th league-wide. That, to me, is something Waddle brings to the equation just because he has so much juice with the ball in his hands, his burst, his vision as a runner, both spectacular. And then I think the other thing that's going to be important is that intermediate passing game. Denver Broncos offense above average on short throws, above average knee paper play on deep throws, below average on intermediate throws, and that's another area where I think Waddle shines. That 10 to 20 yard range to me is something he really brings to this offense that's been missing. So I just think it's a perfect fit for this offense, what they needed, and it's not surprising to me that they've now tried to go after him for a while and finally got him.
Yeah, Mina, it's not just the distance of the throws, but the kind of throws that are being made. I look at those in-breakers, those crossers, those digs. That's what Sean Payton wants his quarterback to throw off of play action. And that's been missing for Bo Nix. I know Courtland Sutton is a big body. He does make some of those catches, but he's a little more inconsistent than you might expect for someone with that size. Bo Nix has been below average as a play-action passer per QBR each of his first 2 seasons in the NFL. That should not be the case. He can throw that pass really well, and that offense creates a ton of space for their receivers. But I do want to see Bo Nix and that offense with Jalen Waddle take those shots. I want to see him get downfield. Bo Nix has been a below-average passer throwing downfield at times as well. So I just think there's an opportunity to fill in kind of the gaps in that offense, and you're kind of pushing everyone down, like a rotation where you add that ace, so that number 2. Now the 2 is a 3, the 3 is a 4. The offense is just a lot more convenient with Jalen Waddle being in the mix there. Doesn't always have the most consistent set of receivers in football.
Dan, how many people are we going to demote today?
I know, it's rough. I mean, like Courtland Sutton's just sitting there like, what did I do?
This is a good demotion.
Everybody's getting demoted. Now, I want to talk, the points that Mina and Bill made were absolutely correct. What Jalen Waddle brings this offense from a route perspective, from unlocking the deep ball. I mean, at worst, he's the 3rd best vertical route runner in the entire league. So we know what that brings there to that offense in Bo Nix this year. But I want to talk about what it means for the Broncos as a franchise. I think Sean Payton looked around the AFC, and he looked at the teams that we think are juggernauts. Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, the teams we associate with the AFC Championship game every single year. I don't know if they're getting back. I think they either, whether it's new coaches, whether it's roster holes, whether it's injuries, I think Sean Payton's looking around and saying our window is right now. I think that in this league right now, this is a microwave league, and it is really easy to build a AFC Championship level contender over a 2-year period. And these windows close faster than anybody thought. Look at Detroit. Nobody's picking them to win the Super Bowl this year. They didn't get there. So I think this is a Denver team that's looking at their window right now saying, we're not going to wait. We're not going to do a 3-year build. We're going to go all in right now and win the AFC.
Yeah, I think Kevin's absolutely right. And I think if there's one trend to take away from this offseason, it's this. The teams that believe they are, close to the Super Bowl were aggressive in trades, not talking about major signings. Obviously, Denver is a great example. Buffalo trading what a lot of us thought was a bit of a premium for DJ Moore. The Rams trading for quite a bit for a number 1 cornerback and also adding one from Kansas City. Those 3 teams, I believe, all watched the Super Bowl last year and felt we could have won this. We could compete here. And it's not surprising to me that those teams in particular have been so aggressive.
Yeah, I mean, especially Denver. They must feel like they got completely ripped off with Bo Nix getting hurt at the end of the playoff game and then a snowstorm in the second half. They feel like things could have been different for them. Hey, we really appreciate you watching our football show today while all your friends are watching basketball. So we want to give you a little basketball to make sure you don't feel. The Tennessee Titans have kept plenty busy in free agency. They've spent over $250 million from the likes of Wan'Dale Robinson, John Franklin Myers, made improvements in the secondary like Alontae Taylor, who leads the NFL in pass breakups since 2022. They had a lot of work to do, and they have been doing it. The man who's been doing a lot of that work, Titans GM Mike Borgonzi, spoke recently about quarterback Cam Ward's development.
All right, let's talk Cam Ward. Take us through his personality. Is he like the leader of the team? Is he that voice? Does he have that fire?
He's one of the guys where everybody likes him and he can hang out and talk with everybody on the team, everybody in the locker room. But he's demanding now. You get out to practice and you mess something up, he's going to get on you. You know, it's funny. We had a joint practice versus Atlanta last year. They were kind of getting on him, some of the Atlanta guys. I think it was Leonard Floyd, actually. They kind of got on him. And Cam, fired right back at him. And he kind of smiled, and he looked over at me and he goes, I like that kid.
Leonard Floyd said this to you.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, everybody seems to like that kid. But, Kevin, what are your expectations for Cam Ward in year 2?
Well, first of all, I have a University of Miami diploma on my wall, so let's just get that out of the way. But even if he went to Florida State or Georgia, anywhere else, I would believe in Cam Ward. And I feel like what the Titans are doing, I'm not saying Super Bowl, but is similar to what the Patriots did this time last year, which is take a roster with a lot of holes and start adding starters. 5, 6 guys, a lot of them just solid starters. Alontae Taylor, Cordell Flott, guys like that. There are difference makers. John Franklin Myers is the type of pass rusher you need for a really good team. But I'm just seeing a floor raising here with Robert Saleh, with Brian Daboll, the offensive coordinator. This is what I want to see for Cam Ward in year 2. I think as long as they hit in the draft at 4, I'd go Sonny Styles there. I think you're going to see a much improved division type of winner.
Oh.
Not picking anything, just floating it.
Sounded like it might have been.
All right, I'll pick it. Fine.
Bill, what do you got?
We'll do the drama. I'll pick it. Division champs.
Sounded a little like a pick masquerading as a
All right, let's do it.
perhaps.
Yeah,
Let's do it. Line is always hard
This is
to
what you
gauge.
get. If you don't watch hoops, you get an AFC South pick on March 19th, and it's Titans.
You got a worst to first 6 months in advance of the season. I agree with Kevin. I don't have a Miami degree, so you can trust me about Cam Ward. Very impressed with what I saw from him last season. His accuracy, his ability to create a structure, his decision-making, all excellent. The problem were that the guy on the other side wasn't holding up his end of the bargain. The blockers were not blocking well. The receivers were not catching the ball well. That's what I'm concerned about here, is that there's not that difference maker, that guy who's going to win one-on-one against man coverage, the guy who's going to be the safety valve for Cam Ward. They spent a lot of money on guys who might be helpful. But Wan'Dale Robinson was a gadget guy most of his time with the Giants. Daniel Bellinger's a blocking tight end for a Giants rushing attack that was one of the worst in football during his time there. Austin Schlottman was a backup center on a line that wasn't very good with their starters. They're spending, I believe, $28 million a year on those 3 guys. That gets you an Alec Pierce. That gets you a Tyler Linderbaum. I would have liked to see Tennessee go out and get that one star, that one player they can rely upon in the key role at a Pro Bowl level, and then fill in the blocking tight end and the gadget wide receiver and the marginal center with the draft picks, with the later rounds of free agency. That's what good organizations do. They don't spend premiums to add in positions that aren't necessarily that hard to fill.
Well, I'll tell you what, they have the 4th pick in the draft next month, so maybe they can find a star there. Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest mock draft has Tennessee going running back with the 4th overall pick. That would be Notre Dame's Jeremiah Love. Last running back to go in the top 5 was Saquon Barkley in 2018. He was the 2nd overall pick by the Giants. Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman was on Draft Daily today, just about an hour ago, spoke about Jeremiah Love. Here's what he had to say.
I think he can do so many different things. We had long meetings and hours trying to figure out how many different ways we can get the ball in his hands. He's a freak athlete. What I love about Jeremiah is his growth in the preparation in terms of the mental side, but also the physical side, the ability to take care of his body and make sure that he's ready for the pounding that a major college football team and a running back will be, but even an NFL running back.
Lots to like about the player, Mina, but we saw Kiper put him 4th in the mock draft. Does that seem a little too high to you?
It does to me. I mean, Jeremiah Love, very clearly the best running back in the draft. A top 5 player, higher even in the draft. I just don't think the Tennessee Titans are in the position to take a running back 4th overall. Let's look at the depth chart. Bill talked a lot about the additions they made or didn't make in free agency, but I just see a lot of holes here. Wan'Dale Robinson, to me, useful player, not a number 1 wide receiver, and we saw how much this receiving group struggled last year. Gunnar Helm was helpful, but he's not a tight end 1, and the interior of that offensive line has major problems. To me, ideally, for Tennessee at pick 4, the dream, I think, would be to trade down and then add to the offense later in the draft and pick up some draft capital in the process. But I do not feel adding a running back is a good plan here. And I don't think it would be great for Jeremiah Love either, because heaven knows he'd be facing a lot of stack boxes in this offense.
We'll see what happens. Edge rusher might not be a bad pick if they stay at 4 there. Pass rush was okay, middle of the pack, ranked 15th in the NFL last season. Much more to come on NFL Live. As we mentioned earlier, it is Andy Reid's birthday. We're going to